Hello and welcome everybody. In this video I will show you what it takes to turn the AS-10 Bulldog, the hardest hitting full auto rifle in the game, from a high spread close range gun into a medium range high precision slug shotgun. It will also end discussions with the locals rather quickly. I always wanted to take advantage of the hardest hitting full auto rifle in Remnant 2, but I'm usually not the shotgun close-up type of player. So we will repurpose the already strong base gun and turn it into a real monster. To achieve this, we will counter the biggest downsides, namely spread and range, while also adding the most beneficial damage multipliers. To keep things sorted, I divided this video into two dedicated sections. Use the timestamps below if you want. The first section covers the conversion into a medium range, low spread gun. The second part gives you an overview which damage multipliers work best and why. So let's dive into the first part, countering the high spread and low range. The base gun has an ideal range of 10 meter to perfectly fit the Challenger's playstyle and his damage buff. It is for that reason the starting gun of the Challenger class after all. We will make use of three key ingredients to increase range, both total and ideal range, and significantly lower the spread for high precision weak spot damage. That in combination with the high base damage and full auto behavior of the gun is just awesome. And as icing on the cake, the recoil of the gun will also be reduced. So baseline are the 4 dummies with no active talents and no classes that enhance range damage in any way. First target 198 damage. Second already has a damage fall off by nearly 10% to 180. Third target suffers from around 35% damage reduction down to 127, and spread starts to become a problem. The last dummy receives less than half of the initial damage, and weapon spread will make precision targeting nearly impossible. First thing we add is the long shot trait from the hunter, either by equipping the hunter class or manually adding the talent after unlocking it by fully leveling up the archetype. This talent does not extend the total range of the gun, but will significantly reduce the damage fall off. With only this talent active, the first 2 targets now receive full damage, the third is up from 127 to 164, and the last target receives nearly double the damage than before, 155 instead of 88. Spread is of course still a problem. Next we add the targeting dual ring. This beauty already reduces spread by 15% and increases weapon total range by 4 meter. In combination with the long shot trait, this will also increase ideal range and further reduce damage fall off. As you can see in this direct comparison, the targeting reticle has already become a bit tighter. Not groundbreaking, but we get to that. Now we get full damage on the first 3 dummies, 198 total on each. And nearly full damage on the last one with 185 instead of 198. Damage on the last 2 is still inconsistent due to the spread, but you can see full damage on the third in the second pass and the 185 on the last dummy in the final pass. So we went from 198, 180, 127 and 88 to 198 3 times and 185 on the fourth dummy, which is just a 6.5% damage loss compared to the 10% already on the second target in our first attempt that was done without any traits or rings. And finally, we want to get rid of the high spread. The handling trait takes care of this, an often overlooked trait, especially for all the shotguns. As you can see, now we have an incredible tight targeting reticle compared to before, and we can now easily apply the full payload of the gun to all 4 targets. And voila, you have a high precision mid-range gun that is still the hardest hitting full auto rifle in the game. But let's dive a little deeper and discuss which damage multipliers work best for the Bulldog and why. I am sure by now you know the difference between damage multipliers and simply adding base damage. To not bore you to death with numbers or blow this video up more than necessary, let me just say this. Crit damage and critical hit chance, probably the most popular ways to inflate your damage numbers work so well because they multiply your damage instead of just adding, let's say, 10% base damage. Often overlooked in this regard are reload speed, fire rate, and even things like ammo reserves. Basically anything that reduces downtimes in which you cannot fire your weapon versus consistently being able to fire your weapon or fire more bullets in a shorter amount of time. Now, due to the different weapon types and behaviors, not every of those multipliers works the same with each gun. Fire rate, for example, is super beneficial for full auto weapons, but does little for single shot rifles. Same goes for reload speed and ammo reserves, you get the picture. Now, the Bulldog's biggest downsides, besides the one we covered in the first part, are long reload times and rather mediocre ammo reserves. The last one becoming quickly a problem when you increase the fire rate, which is great fun and very effective for this weapon due to its high base damage. Now, I don't want to point out the perfect build here or which class and ring combination works best. That always depends on your overall setup. Do you want an elemental build or rather a high crit build? This defines which classes, rings and amulets overall will be best for you. But let me give you a few ideas which damage modifiers you should look for when building around the Bulldog after using the improvements from the first part of this video. The by far best archetype package for this gun is surprisingly the Gunslinger. Not exactly a class you would associate with a shotgun, but you get 15% increased fire rate, 25% increased range damage and plus 5% ranged crit chance as basic damage perk. And the fire rate as multiplier for the hardest hitting full auto gun of the game works wonders. The class also addresses two other major downsides, ammo reserves and reload speed. You gain a natural 20% reload speed from empty, which is huge on the Bulldog. And not only you get vastly improved ammo reserves from the class trait, but also 30% more ammo pickups from the team perk. This overall package makes the Gunslinger a fantastic choice here. Bulletstorm, the final damage skill of the Gunslinger, is also maybe the best skill in the game for our setup here. 20 seconds of another plus 20% fire rate and plus 50% reload speed while sitting on a rather short cooldown. The damage you can apply consistently while the skill is active is just insane. And if you use the Gunslinger as primary archetype, you even get 8 seconds of infinite ammunition during Bulletstorm. You see, it addresses all of the Bulldog's downsides at once, and the damage multipliers work wonders here. If you go for a full damage build, the Hunter will free you 10 trait points because the long shot trait comes naturally with the class, and you get another 15% reload speed, although this perk is more situational than the one from the Gunslinger. But apart from the Gunslinger, all other archetypes are really up to you and your overall build. When it comes to make the damage even more consistent and higher, here are some ideas for you and your builds. Overflow as weapon mod improves even more on reload speed and fire rate. Using it during Bulletstorm makes for some ridiculous moments, promised, but watch your ammo reserves. Weapon mutators that work really well here, apart from your typical momentum for high crit builds, are Bandit, which basically adds 30% more ammo reserves on top, while also reducing interruptions for reloads by 30%, thus working as damage multipliers, and on top gives you 10% improved fire rate. The Extender mutator also pairs well with this setup, improving vastly on how consistent you can apply damage without the need to reload, and on top reducing reload times by 15% from empty. In terms of rings and amulets, basically eye carefully everything with fire rate and reload speed, like Gunslinger's Charm if it fits into your build. To wrap things up here, if you combine the Bulldog's low spread and high range setup with the right damage multipliers, you have a real monster at your disposal that is not only very effective but also great fun to use. It has become easily one of my favorite guns in the game. It shreds, staggers, and it is a blast to use. The high stagger potential of this setup is the final chef's kiss here. Give it a try, you won't be disappointed. Thank you a lot for watching, and for now this is all about Remnant 2. Take good care of yourself and enjoy your gaming sessions.